Hello, everyone. I'm Kate O'Hara, and I'm currently working at Cleveland State University, and I teach there, and I work with their STEM education department. So I would love it if you came up and grabbed a piece of our STEM swag. But I had 3 different kinds, so pick what if you want, a lanyard or one of these things that goes on the back of your phone, which I can't live without anymore, or a post-it thing. So please take it. So we'd love you to have one. I came today because I do professional development in the schools. So I know what is needed in the schools in technology. I teach professional development, project-based learning. That's what we're going out into the schools doing. So we're currently doing a research project on the professional development with project-based learning. So just to let you know a little bit more about myself, I'm an assistant professor of research in STEM education. I came from Mount Union prior to coming to Cleveland State 4 years ago. Before that, I used to teach out in New Jersey, and my original teaching career for 11 years was teaching high school mathematics. So that's where my background is. I teach introductory methods. So if you're going to become a high school math teacher going through Cleveland State, or a science high school teacher, then you'll come through my class, or one of my classes. And I guess my claim to fame there is I teach project-based instruction. So how to create project-based units and how to use that method in your classroom. But for the STEM Education Center, which is kind of like half my life at Cleveland State, I go out and provide professional development to schools that are transitioning to project-based learning. So we'll go in, not only provide the professional development to the teachers, but we'll stay on and coach them each year afterward as they keep trying to build more units and stay with professional project-based learning. I'm the Ohio STEM Learning Network in Battelle. I'm on the advisory board for the NEOSTEM ecosystem, which is a really fascinating program that's popping up and really in the grassroots right now. So if you see the NEOSTEM ecosystem anywhere, it's really a great program that's trying to connect any kind of STEM technology, computer science, girls that code, cybersecurity, the cyber hunts. They're doing everything they can, but they want to connect resources because it's happening here and it's happening there and no one's really talking to each other. And I'm on the advisory board for John Marshall, but I work with several high schools in Cleveland Metro. So PBL. I am sure none of us here went to school in a PBL environment. Did anyone ever teach in a PBL environment? Where did you teach? Oh, I was going to say, well, because there is a St. Mary's that we're working with. Oh, okay. It's one of the things that's difficult about PBL. So this is like a definition of project-based learning. Students go through an extended inquiry. They have to answer a question. Sometimes we call it a driving question, a problem or a challenge. We allow the students to kind of direct their own learning. So you hear all the buzzwords in education. It's not teacher-centered, it's student-centered. But I think the piece that's most important is that the students go through an extended inquiry. So it's not problem-based learning, which might be a day problem or a 2-day problem. Project-based learning should be a couple of weeks. And project-based learning should be transdisciplinary and authentic. So transdisciplinary is a kind of a word we use in education, but I'm not so sure we use it correctly because it wants students to use all subject areas. So if I back up a bit, there's multidisciplinary. So when we go out to the schools, we try and get teachers to think about their subjects transdisciplinary. First thing they say is, we do that. We're going to have a session on bees. For the month of April, we're all going to do bees. Well, that's great, and it is connected, but that's a thematic unit. So that is, all the disciplines are all going to concentrate on bees. Doesn't mean they're going to relate to each other. They're just all following the same subject. It's a great idea. It's nice. We don't want you to get rid of these, but we kind of want you to think differently. Then they kind of moved interdisciplinary. So let me see if I can give you an example of interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary is when one or two subjects kind of blend with each other. So let's say in a science class, you collect the data and on voting. We'll say it's on voting. And then in the math class, you take the data and you put it into graphs. And maybe in the history class, you might talk about the implications of this voting and the data that was brought together. So everybody's working on maybe the same piece of information, so that's interdisciplinary. Again, it's a great step in the right direction, but it is not transdisciplinary. Transdisciplinary is more of along the lines, and this is difficult for schools to do, is we give the students a problem or a question, and we say, we need to create a garden in the middle of this area, and there's problems with this area, but the food is going to be donated. So then the students start working through how to create the garden, and in that, they might call upon the math teacher to help them with the area and some of the costs. There's a water problem, so they might have to call upon the science department to help them with irrigation, pollution, and issues of water. And then they might have to call upon the community to help them get this word out that there's going to be donated food. So the problem drives the instruction, and in that, they start to use their subjects, but their subjects are not feeling separate. They're more along the lines of authentic and usable to solve the problem. This is hard for teachers to do, and we understand this. It's collaborative, and teachers are very, very fearful of other subject areas, and they should be. We became experts of one subject. I was math. I am very helpless when I come into a science department because I don't have the science background. So I'm fearful as a teacher in a math room to take on these questions. But they're real questions, and it's authentic. So it's probably the way our students understand education better than we're ready to teach it. So we are trying to teach our students at CSU this transdisciplinary approach to education so that you are working collaboratively, but not in silos, and that we look at our subjects, one, not alone, but two, that our subjects are needed for students to solve problems as opposed to looking at our subjects as the only thing they need to know. So unfortunately, we don't need to really, and that's progressive thinking, but it's scary. How do we look at education as to what students need going forward, right? So this is why it gets, well, every time I go out and do professional development, some teacher is usually very frustrated or upset by the whole thing because we're kind of taking education and flipping it around. So, so I think this is just PBL okay, one of the big things we get when we go out there with teachers is they say, we don't have time for project-based learning. You're laughing at me, you're so funny because you know exactly what I'm going to say with all this. We don't have time for PBL because as they see it, they think we're coming in to have you add a project to your already packed curriculum. We understand that, but we're not asking you to add. We're hoping that you'll take something out, take something that you used to teach, your standards, create a PBL that will drive the students through those standards learning, and create a project, but not do your same stuff at the same time. Doesn't mean I can't use some of those great worksheets that go along with that standard. Doesn't mean the students aren't going to be tested on it because they're going to still be tested. So you have to kind of practice some test questions, but the PBL is central, and in there it's the standards. I'll show you how we do that in a minute. So most teachers use little STEAM. I do want to stop and tell you very quickly the STEAM, STEM, or STEM. So STEM, you all know, is science, technology, engineering, and math. Our STEM, we added an extra M, not because we can't spell, but because we put medicine in, because at Cleveland State we have the NEOMed Center. So to bring in those professors and those teachers to work with our students, we added them to our center. STEAM, of course, is adding art, but many people misunderstand that as art. It's actually adding the humanities. So when we say STEAM, that's when we're really talking about transdisciplinary learning, because we're just going to connect everybody together. So this year alone, these are the 8 Catholic schools that we are in, helping them get STEM designation. Every one of them have a fantastic little fab lab included in them. Every one of them is trying to connect the PBLs to technology as much as they can. The 3 at the bottom are public schools, and Orange in particular, I'm sure you guys have heard of Orange, we're in there for a 3-year contract as we're trying to bring first their elementary and middle school, and now the trainers are working with their high school. So they're trying to get their entire school district PBL, which is pretty exciting. I hope that they're successful with this. So here's what teachers say when we go out and say, we're going to teach you PBL. The pushback: I don't have any extra time to do a PBL. I believe in the importance of practicing STEAM, but I'm not really sure how to approach transdisciplinary learning if they don't have common planning time, or if it's not promoted by their administration. They're not sure how to do it, and they're fearful of other subjects. They don't have common planning time, and they don't have time to work with their other teachers and collaborate. They believe PBL is good, but what about the state tests? Because we're all being measured by the tests. So how does this fit in with them? And they know that they need that information out. And this is just another good idea that will just fade away like the others. So we'll put up with you until you go away, and I don't know if I am going away. I think PBL is really quite a hot topic right now for the schools, so I'm kind of hoping that I don't. So first of all, we do teach them, we give them background because they really asked for this, and so after our very first year of the PD training, we sat down and thought, well, first of all, we had 2 or 3 schools that called us. We did our professional development. We found all this pushback, all these questions, all these people who didn't believe in our message, and what they were asking for was research. So when the second year was coming along, 8 schools had contacted us. We knew we had something that people were looking for, but we also needed to revise our message. So we did a ton of research on project-based learning, and it's a very sound technique. I do believe the next one says they'll do better on their state tests if project-based learning is done professionally. So we kind of have to put you at ease that these students will learn this and get the test scores that you're looking for. Of course, at the same time of learning content, they're going to learn the C's, the collaboration, creativity, communication, problem solving, and I don't know why that's not another C, but it's the 21st century skills, which I kind of laugh about because I say they're just now skills, so we just need them now. So they're kind of learning a good package of things, so teachers should feel about it. So we revised ours, and we start with a SOL. Has anyone done a SOL in their classrooms? A self-organized learning environment. There's a website called Start SOL, and if you haven't gone to it, I would suggest you look up Start SOL Cleveland. It's the website will tell you how to do a SOL, and it gives you the questions for a SOL, creates a great environment. The next time we go out there, we do a mock PBL. So since most of us standing here have never actually been taught in project-based learning, we mock and walk them through a PBL of their own. So we have one on origami, we have another one on hot air balloons, and you become learners, so you get to experience the feeling, because we do know that we teach 70% of the way we teach is exactly how we learned. So it's hard for us to crack that code and get out of the way we learned. So we start with the SOL is to learn a new way of learning. The mock PBL is to walk through a new way of learning. And then the third time we go out, because we do 8 sessions, We say, bring your standards, bring us what you want to teach at this particular time period, and we'll show you how to create a project with those standards. So we start with the standards, develop a big idea that's transdisciplinary. We develop a project on the fourth time. We create a driving question. It's like a backwards design. We create assessments and rubrics. We have them visit a STEM school. We kind of take them on a field trip. So not only do you experience as learners in the beginning, then you go out and you see a PBL school in action so you can believe that this message is real. We build a calendar and we invite the community, and then we come back and we reflect on the whole experience. So through our research, we found out that PD normally only works if it's long-term, so we make it the full school year. If that administrators are present, so that means they have to feel support. So we actually require that a principal be in the PD the entire session. It is so much more helpful. For one, teachers behave. Worst audience ever is a room full of teachers. And, but they have to know, because you know, your room's going to look different if it's PBL. It's going to be active. It may not look as studious as kids in rows taking notes. So the principal has to know what's going on, be helpful in these projects, so they support them, and they need to feel that way. What's our other thing? Long-term and embedded in the school day and embedded in their curriculum. So we start with your standards and bring me all your fun projects that you've done. We'll use them so that you don't feel like you're giving up what you used to work on. So some of the teachers, I'm finishing up because I think my time is done, but the feedback and the data, we have Survey Monkeys, and we ask the teachers each time we go out there what they're feeling. And I just kind of highlighted just that you know, these are teachers that didn't want to do this. They're required to do this. They turned around and we came out with 3 strands. One, teachers wanted more time to do PBL. They loved it. Their students wanted more time. Teachers who cried and said, I cannot give you 2 weeks for this, wish they had 3 and 4 weeks to do the same project. So the next year they were going to revise it, come back and give it more time. That was one strand. They wanted more time. The second strand was that they saw differences in the way they taught, and they liked it. They saw them change as more facilitators and kind of a backwards design, but that they were walking around and enjoying and seeing the students learn. But the most critical piece is that they saw their students learning in a different way and that they were motivated. So making and learning related something to their everyday life was fun for me to watch. That spark was ignited. Even those students who struggled with motivation and finding that excitement to learn throughout the year. This was my favorite part of the project-based learning process. A group that ended up winning as a design will take place for the next school year, include a student who struggled daily. So it's kind of like it's just naturally differentiated learning because projects lend itself to that without too much worry. They had so many ideas, it was hard for them just to focus on one aspect to share. It was so exciting. Few things I would change about my project would make it more challenging. I would want to make it more in depth so they can make bigger and more informational projects. So the feedback has always been like this. They're out of their minds happy after we get them through it. It's not easy changing. The investment paid off with regards to student learning. And of course, that's what we're always looking for. It's our super goal. We're hoping to extend our research into looking at student test scores, and so to see if this actually makes a difference in our school, because that's what we're hoping to see. I look forward to creating a facility, my next PBL, and that's it. Well, do you have any questions?
Are you saying then that this took in the classroom about 2 weeks, and you did it once, or you did projects more than once?
No, well, we go in and we'll take an entire school and we teach the teachers how to create a project. And they're very fearful of the amount of time. So we say, how about you start with a 2-week project? So they usually pick 2 weeks in April or 2 weeks in May or 2 weeks in February. And then that's when we help them design the project that they're going to implement. I don't implement them. I'll go out and visit them. But yes, they did 2 weeks. Then in the last session, we'll talk about what they thought of it, and they usually want more time, so they're going to blow out the project a little bit bigger and make it longer, and then they start in the summer and create their next project. So our goal for them is to increase their PBLs each year. So you have 1 the first year, 2, then 3. So it's not quite ripping apart the design of the school and starting over. It's a slow transition to PBL.
Kate, what school systems in Lorraine County or this area are you working with?
In Lorraine County, the farthest I'm out here is, I believe, St. Mary's of Avon. And, well, Ridgefield is quite a bit of, we worked in Ridgefield. That was our very, very first year. This is just the research group. So we were at Ridgefield Middle School and their elementary school. So is that close enough to out here?
Ridgefield?
What?
North
Ridgeville.
North Ridgeville.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. They have a wonderful STEM lab. The middle school?
The North Tech Rangers Tech Academy.
Yes.
Whole separate school.
Yeah. So we worked with them prior to opening that, teaching their teachers PBL, and they have a full PBL coach who's working with them, Mel, I believe. And then one of the facilitators that come out with me to do the PBL is also coaching out there. So they're kind of like they've got it going. It's just the matter they need the coaching when they're creating these projects, giving them ideas, bringing in the outside community, for kind of always encouraging them to take the projects out as well. So the teachers still need help, even past our PD, you know.
Concentrate on a specific age group? Or you're going K through 12?
We're K through 12. I'm a high school teacher. The last final frontier is always high school. They have the hardest time changing. And it's not because of the teachers, so you know this, right? Well, see, most of why I'm in these K through 8s for the Catholic schools is because they're looking for STEM certification. And so the project-based learning is the piece that they're missing for the STEM piece. We'd be thrilled to be in the high schools, but the problem with high schools is the way they're set up. I mean, in a middle school, I can take the entire 7th grade team and create a transdisciplinary project because they're in charge of the entire, not a public school, but in a Catholic school, they know all the students. So at one time, all the students are moving between these teachers. In a high school, if you can picture a regular high school, when the bell rings, they leave the math classroom, half of them go to this science teacher, half of them go to this science teacher. So they're all exploding. So the only way PBL works in a high school is if it's kind of a smaller high school, like MC Squared or some of these smaller high schools, and they do kind of capstone projects where the whole high school works on it. It's the only way to do it because they don't all share the same teacher, so the whole school has to be in charge. Well, thank you very much for coming.